I dare you to hit it.
He'll be sorry.
Boy, a bigger bat. Want the heater? I'll give it to you.
Pick up a basketball, maybe then I'll hit it.
A swing and a drive to deep right.
Clear the deck. Cannonball coming.
Left field. It is out of here.
What's good, Baseball and Stitched? We are back. You guys get Jackson for a third week in a row for the entire pod. Good show for you guys today. First and foremost, the top 10 on the 2026 Bus Big Board MLB Draft this weekend. Make sure you catch it to see who your team selects in the first round, or maybe a little bit later, depending on who you root for. We're also going to talk a little bit more about the All-Star Game, who will be starting the All-Star Game, who will be at the All-Star Game, and maybe who should be there, but they're not for whatever reason. So we'll rock and roll. But guys, we start where we start. As always, Jackson Flax, how was your weekend?
Jackson, how was your 4th of July?
Pretty good. Went home with the family, which means I didn't have to pay for meals for a couple days, which was very enjoyable. Loved
That's
that.
great.
But it was good to see him. The first time I've been home in about a month or so. Enjoyed it back at school now, dealing with bullpens and visits like a college life, I guess.
Yeah, you're right back in the mix. It never ends. My weekend was good. I played 2 rounds of golf in the 3 days. My golf game went from getting to about as good as it could be to about as bad as it's been in a very long time. But you know, that's the ebb and flow of the toughest game to exist. Other than that, it was pretty low key. It's pretty nice. Ryan, how was your time in the woods?
It was good. It was good. Camping was great. Wyoming was cool.
Crazy
We had a
person.
ton of fun. No bears. Definitely did some hiking, and a buddy and I went probably way further up a mountain than we should have. But, you know, we did it anyways, and I'm still here to do the podcast. Therefore, I did nothing wrong. So we had a lot of fun up there in Wyoming. But, you know, back to baseball here, guys. Players of the Month just came out. Neither name will surprise either of you. I'll start here on the AL side. It turns out Junior Caminero is the player of the month in the AL. That will surprise nobody who knows the type of month that this guy had. 327, 402, 673, 10 home runs, 4 doubles, 24 RBIs. He had a 24-13 K to walk, which, as everybody knows, swing and a miss is what we talk about with Caminero. But tell you what, he's only striking out 24 times in a month. You're in a good spot, Tampa Bay.
It's the same for both guys, actually, that won Player of the Month on both sides, because PCA won it on the NL side. And I think it was Dansby Swanson made the comment of he's really just looking for pitches in his zone to hit now, and so the other ones don't even come into play for him. And I think that progression for a hitter as they get older, some guys come into the league with it, other guys it takes a little bit longer because they've done so much damage to pitches across a much wider zone when pitching wasn't as good at a younger level. Now they're at the big league level and they really got to hone it in. Both these guys are learning how to take much better at bats, and they are making pitchers pay for it. Junior is so insanely good at hitting. It's so fun to watch. And PCA is just who we expected him to be. He's kind of pushing himself into that MVP conversation on the NL side.
Yeah, absolute electric factory from PCA. 381, 468, 781 slug. 40, count them, 40 hits in the month of June. When he's on base that much, it's going to be an electric factory at the end of the day. I also think, Flax, one of the things I want to bring up is how fun it is that you're talking about just hitting pitches in your zone. We talk about this at every level. I think this is a good opportunity for younger viewers to understand that, like, that's something that you can start doing now as a ball player. You do not have to wait till you're at a high level to start looking for pitches in your zone. That will help you no matter whether or not you are in a rec league somewhere or you're playing at the highest level of baseball. Jackson, tell us about the players of the week.
Yeah, players of the week. Yordan Alvarez, absolutely insane week. Had a 2-homer game where he hit a walk-off. Finished the week 10 for 23, 435 batting average. 4 homers, 10 total hits, 11 RBIs. And then Otto Lopez for the Marlins. Feel like he gets like 2 hits every single game for the past like 3 months straight. This guy is just good at hitting baseballs. This week went 14 for 28, hit 500, 3 homers, 8 extra base hits, 7 RBIs. Really good week for him as well.
Dude, yeah. Otto Lopez is pacing the league in base hits. And he's got 9 bombs to go with it, by the way. Like, they're not just all singles. He has some pop, but this is a guy who was DFA'd twice. And Peter Bendix was like, no, brother, I got you. We're going to figure this thing out. And now he is just so heavy bat to ball, pounds it in a gap, 25 doubles. He's got the speed to go with it, 17 of 20 stolen bases. He's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and to your credit here, Flax and Jackson, both of you guys, 14 hits last week. 8 of those were extra base hits. This is not just like tapping a ball over an infielder. Like, these are barrels left and right.
Oh, yeah.
For Otto Lopez. Guys, let's get into it. We've been enjoying draft prep as we do every single year. We are finally, once again, closing in on MLB Draft Day. I can tell you that the couple of contacts we have are already getting close or are in their war rooms at the current moment getting ready for the draft, which is pretty cool. Wish we could be in there. Obviously, instead, we're here doing a podcast. So one day, maybe.
This is our war room.
That's right. Yeah, you're welcome to the bus war room where the top 10 get revealed right now. Guys, we get to start this off at number 10 with one of my favorite players in this entire draft, and that is Kentucky shortstop Tyler Bell, switch hitter. This kid possesses every tool you could possibly ask for. He's a guy who I could simply rate 55 plus across the board, in my personal opinion, when it comes to all 5 of his tools. Only question with Tyler Bell has been pretty simple. It's whether or not he can stay healthy. But dear Lord, when this kid has been on the field for Kentucky, he has shown the ability to potentially be more than a guy in a top 10, maybe a guy who would have been in the top 5 had he been able to stay healthy over the last 2 seasons.
Well, he flipped the script at the plate this year from a swing and miss perspective. He went from going, 22% K rate, 13% walk rate, flipped it on its head this year, 18% K rate, 26% walk rate. So he just became a smarter hitter. He became a better hitter where he put himself in a better position going into this draft for teams to be excited about his projectability upwards. And then defensively, he's an athlete. He's a guy that you can put across a lot of different positions, give him a chance at the shortstop position to roll forward in a minor league level and see how it feels, see how he plays. But yeah, it's a guy that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, also a big fan of him over here. This is a guy who just played 2 years at Kentucky. A little bit of a younger guy, kind of old for his class, that's why he's eligible. And as Flax talked about, my favorite thing about him is him just getting better between those 2 seasons. His freshman year, we saw he hit 311, 552 slug, 10 homers, 17 doubles. But this year, like I said, just 36 games due to the injury, hit 347, hit a bunch of home runs. But we saw he had more walks this year than he did the year before in 20 less games. He cut his swing rate down by 7%. Cut his chase rate down by over 10%. Went from 24% to 13% chase rate. He got much smarter to play while continuing to keep the power, keep the average. He's just such a good, promising hitter who also, like Flax said, plays a really good defensive short. So I think he's got a big upside.
Super excited about Bell. I'm expecting him to potentially go higher than a lot of people are expecting, even though we currently have him as our 10th player on the big board. I think I'm seeing him slotted a little bit lower in the draft. Again, once again, due to some of the injury history that he's had. Really excited to see where Bell goes. Let's move on to a guy who I know is one of Jackson's favorite prospects in this entire draft. He's higher on this kid than most other evaluators, and that would be Justin LeBron, a shortstop out of the University of Alabama. We've seen the pop from this kid. His overall athleticism has been incredible across the board. Swing and miss tends to be the conversation with him. But Jackson, this is a kid who could perennially slug 25 to 35 home runs at the big league level if he can figure it out and be in the right space.
Yeah, absolutely. LeBron's one of the more polarizing players in the class, I would say. Before the year, he was kind of top 4, top 5 pick. A lot of people were thinking that if he has a good year, he could potentially get drafted 1, 2, 3. He ended up having a good year, but it just wasn't to the point where he's been considered in those top 3 to 5 conversations. Finished this year hitting just 277, but hit 16 home runs, 534 slug, stole 42 bases this year, while also being a 6'2", 180-pound shortstop who plays very well, has a really strong arm. But the power it's off the charts. He has so much power upside, has such a good swing, just swings the ball, just swings very violently. But the thing, as Orion mentioned, bit aggressive, has prone to whiff, has prone to chase a little bit. But this is one of the most athletically gifted people in the class who has very good speed. His potential to be a 30-30 guy. Like kind of that Acuna type hitter where he can kind of do everything. I think he's one of the highest upside players in the class who has a little bit of things to clean up to end up being a great hitter, but really like Justin LeBron in his upside.
Yeah, he had 13 of his last 15 games. He had hits. I think he came back on at the end of the season, especially helping propel a team like Alabama to the College World Series, a team that is continuously with Rob Vaughn trying to take the next step forward. On top of that, he, in that stretch, was putting balls out of the yard, not just dumping balls into the outfield. Finishing with 16 bombs on the year, still higher strikeout to walk than we would like. There's really no way around it. But I still think it's a progression for a hitter like this. I think we're only seeing the floor of where his power potential is. I think when you think of shortstops and third basemen, that could be 20 to 30 home run guys, play very solid defense, which is one of his calling cards, and steal some bases. This is a perennial 2020 guy if given the right slot and the opportunity to get to that big league level.
Yeah, 6'2", 190 can absolutely stay at the shortstop position, no problem in my personal opinion. I think that gives you enough upside to go say that, look, we know that the bat's there. He's done it pretty well in the SEC already. Let's go grab a kid who we think will be our shortstop for the next, 10 plus years, pending the CBA and whatnot. But we leave that alone today. Guys, let's keep moving up our board here. We're going to move ourselves into the top high school arm in this class in Gio Rojas out of Stoneman Douglas, Florida. Rojas is your big-time prep arm this year in this class, a guy who is extremely polished from the left side. He's reminded a lot of different people of Jesus Luzardo and what he does from the left side of the mound. He sports an extremely solid fastball that goes all the way up to 98 miles an hour, plus feel to throw a slider, a changeup. And the slider right now looks relatively wipeout. I like the arm from an overall perspective. We all know that high school righties are what teams tend to stay away from due to what the draft history there looks like. However, high school lefties is a completely different story. For a team who likes a high upside arm early in the draft that is a prep arm, you tend to want him to be left-handed. We're seeing that here with Rojas. Excited to hear what you guys have to say.
Well, it's funny that you compare him to a guy like Jesus Luzardo because they are alumni of the same high school. The same high school that Anthony Rizzo and Kobe Mayo also went to.
And Roman Anthony.
And Roman Anthony, thank you. Which is crazy that this place is just like in Parkland, Florida, just like churns out MLB players. But I think it's, like you said, it's one of those things where he fits the right build for someone that almost, in some respects, has this level of pedigree where scouts are going to look at where he comes from, the coaches that are around him, the coachability, the versatility from an Arsenal perspective, and the understanding of what it is to be on the mound and take control of a game. It seems like that's a space where he's very comfortable. At 6'4", 195, I expect him to fill out a little bit. I see the velocity rising at that rate, but most MLB teams are going to feel more comfortable taking a chance on a strong left-handed arm like this with good command than they are a right-handed pitcher, and I think that's why a guy like Gio Rojas fits so well inside of our top 10. There's a lot to like there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just big 6'4" lefty, 98 and he's been up to 100, 101. He throws hard from the left side, and that slider, from everything I've read, I've watched video over it, that slider looks pretty ridiculous right now. He's shown feel for a changeup, hasn't thrown it a whole lot, will need to develop another pitch or two to be a starter at the next level. But coming in as like a 6'4" lefty, 98, 99, 18 years old, who has 2+ pitches that are already generating whiffs at a high level is pretty rare to see. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes and how he's developed.
Yeah, I think the only other note here is the fact that we're talking about a guy whose slider is very, very sweepy, which does tell you that the development of another pitch going glove side, many teams will probably find that to be something they could quote-unquote do easily, to find a bridge pitch in the middle, something that's maybe a little bit more of a bullet. Maybe they swap that over to a cutter so he gets a good bridge pitch, depending on what his fastball grid, or, sorry, Jackson, help me here, his fastball, I can't speak today. Dispersion looks like, whether it's a cut ride fastball, whether it's just a rise run fastball. Either way, Rojas, a lot of upside across the board. Coming in at number 7 on our list, Derek Curiel. This is a bat that we've been excited for a long time. Extremely high-level bat-to-ball skill, and you combo that with one of the overall better bodies in the class coming out of college. Again, 6'2", 192, could absolutely play anywhere in the outfield the way I look at it. Really nice left-handed stick coming out of LSU here, guys. Flax, where you at?
Yeah, it's I think in some respects took a step forward this year, in other respects took a step backwards. You know, draft eligible sophomore. This was always the big year for him. Coming off a national championship, the expectations were really high for a team like LSU, and they definitely did not do very well as a team. Didn't make the NCAA tournament, didn't make a regional. And I think he was kind of the engine that needed to drive the offense. We're still talking about a guy who slugged .526, had an over 900 OPS, stole 13 of 15 bags, you know, put together a very solid season here, but we wanted to see the power go up a little bit. 6 home runs, had 7 the year before, 18 doubles, had 20 the year before. You know, from a bat-to-ball perspective, elite skills. For his physical profile, we want to see guys that are 6'2", sub 200 pounds, putting out 15 home runs to say that they have a projectable power profile, with the expectation that as they grow, that number could get into the 20-25 range with a wood bat in hand at big league level pitching. I don't necessarily see that to be the case. I think you're probably looking at closer to somewhere between a Stephen Kwan type than you are looking at a big left-handed hitting corner outfield bat. But the defense is there. The speed is there. His comfort in the outfield, tracking down baseballs, is really high level. It's just a matter of whether or not he takes that next step offensively. And I don't necessarily know that it needs to be there the way he plays defense, but I didn't see that from freshman year to sophomore year at the college level that I would have liked to see to feel as good about his projectability as I did coming into the season.
Yeah, for me, he was another guy kind of different from Justin LeBron, where I was really high in Curiel coming into the year. I thought the power was going to jump a little bit more and he was going to be a top 5 pick. It didn't jump in the ways I thought, but I still love the player. One of the best approaches in the class. He had a 13% whiff rate this year. You don't see that at the college level, especially playing in the SEC like he was. Just a 21% chase rate, 12% walk to 16% strikeout. One of the more mature players in the class when it comes to his approach. Such a good hitter. Hit .352 this year, 18 doubles, 6 home runs. Played a decent to good center field. Probably could end up being a corner outfielder who's really good, or just a center fielder who is decent. I think the power might be there. We're not sure about it yet, as Flax talked about. The swing looks a little flat, so we're not 100% sure what the power is going to turn into. But really like Curiel and the type of player he could be.
Yeah, I think our one note here on Curiel, where he reminds me of a player from last year who did get taken 43rd overall, though he is not the defender that this guy was in college, but had better bat the ball in college, is Cam Canarella. You're talking about a guy who the question is whether or not the body type and some of the gap-to-gap pop and overall pop is going to show. We were all worried that Canarella would be a little bit light on the bat as a guy who is an elite defender. In his second pro year, Canarella right now is slashing .360, .442, .599 from a pop perspective.
He's got a bunch of
11 home runs and 172 ABs. So This is the question, right? Are we going to see Curiel develop in a similar fashion where we're going to see more pop and a consistent gap-to-gap play while also playing high-level defense? Now, The only catch is, once again, as Jackson mentioned and as Flax mentioned, this guy's bat to ball is better going into the pro level than Cantarella's was at the end of the day. Let's keep moving up our list here, guys. This is one of my favorite players in the draft, has been since his freshman year at Georgia Tech. Drew Burress, a right-handed outfielder out of Georgia Tech. Guys, this guy just resembles everything I wanted to be in life. We're talking about a kid who's 5'9", 175, 180, and just hits absolute nukes left and right. Talk about a hit tool that we're playing with right now. This is a kid who easily grades out as at the bare minimum of 55 to 60 on the contact scale, and potentially a 55 or 60 in the power side of things as well. Dude gets every ounce of energy and pop out of his body and shows a very advanced approach at the plate. Question with him tends to be where you truly want to put him, but I think that regardless of a minor step back that we may have seen this year, I do believe that Drew Burress is going to be a top 10 pick, no problem, in 2026.
Obviously, I haven't seen the swing path data, but it's a very the swing is very reminiscent. It resembles Junior Camanero's swing a ton. It is what feels a little long and a little flat through the zone, but generates an immense amount of backspin when he makes contact with the ball. It's why he has so much power in his stature. It's why he has so much power the opposite way, because his ball flight is tremendous. But I think that obviously, no matter what, people are always going to look at a guy his size and say, the upside, the growth upside, for where can a guy like this go from here, always seems a little lower. And I think that that's the only thing that will bring him down in some organization's eyes. But somebody within this top 10 isn't going to give a crap, and they're going to take him because he is so good bat to ball with the power upside that he's already shown at the collegiate level.
Yeah, he is unbelievable. I'm just going to say now, he's 5'9". I'm not bringing up his height once again because this dude's college numbers are borderline unbelievable. In 3 seasons at Georgia Tech, he played 179 games, hit 357, 484, 720 with 60 doubles and 60 home runs while stealing 28 bases across 3 seasons at Georgia Tech. In terms of production, what we have seen, he's one of the best players in the class. We talk about projectability. We talk about this guy might have this, he might have that. We talk about it all the time. We have watched Drew Burress play baseball, and we have watched him hit the ball over the fence at a rate that we rarely see college players do. He's one of the more talented hitters in this class, pound for pound, and he does this by keeping a pretty decent approach to the plate as well. This year had 36 strikeouts to 41 walks, keeps the chase rate under 20%, just a 22% whiff rate. Such a big fan of the hitter. He also has a cannon for an arm in the outfield. He set the Georgia Tech record with 10 outfield assists in 2024 from the corner outfield. Got moved to center field and looks promising out there. I think he can stick there long term, which if he can stick in center field, that's going to help his ability to play at the next level. If not, I think he could be a really good corner outfielder. Has a plus arm, plus speed. I really like Drew Burress.
Love it, because I agree. He's a dog. Somebody go get him. He also just screams Orioles for many reasons. Moving up the list here, another guy with some pedigree in Jacob Lombard, his brother George Lombard Jr., currently in the Yankee system. His dad, George Lombard, former major leaguer. Jacob Lombard is the second highest rated high school prospect in this class for Bus. 6'3", 195, has the ability potentially to stick at shortstop due to his size, though, and his arm being considered average at the current moment. A lot of people are projecting a move to third base at some point in time. But kid's got everything you could possibly ask for. The pop looks extremely real and something that will continue to get better over time, and he shows great feel to hit at the plate. I'm curious to see what you guys think about Lombard.
Well, his dad had a 50-50 shot with who to give the junior to. And I think that George Lombard Jr. so far has been giving good game to the namesake. But both senior and junior will tell you that Jacob Lombard is the better player. And that's been a very, very clearly spoken fact from that family for a while. And it's not hard to see why. Everything he does is compact, it's quick, it's smooth, it's comfortable. He has the look. When you watch him play baseball, it was fit and made for this game. And I think the question mark is just going to be, at the next level, can he handle that? And I think that's the case with any high schooler that's rated this high. It's never not the case. But you see guys who end up in that position with pedigree, and more often than not, the answer to that question is yes. Very few times do those guys struggle right out of the gate. It usually comes when they finally get to the highest level, they reset and come back better than ever. Everything this kid does gets you excited. The arm strength isn't elite, but for guys that are quick in their feet and guys that are smooth in the way that they play the game, the arm strength doesn't need to be elite. Omar Vizquel played the shortstop position for an extremely long time at potentially one of the best levels we've ever seen the position played. I don't think anybody would sit there and tell you that Omar Vizquel had the strongest arm, but he got to the ball quickly, he got rid of it quickly, and he put it in the guy's chest 99.9% of the time. That's all it takes, and it feels to me like Jacob Lombard has that comfortability in the position.
Yeah, this is a guy who just kind of does everything well in the scouting report standard. On MLB's draft, they have him rated scouting grade, hit 55, power 60, run 65, arm 50, field 55. Just kind of does everything pretty well. Kind of reminds some people of like the Bobby Witt as a prospect, where you just kind of look around and he just kind of checks all the boxes. The run is probably the thing he's best at. Very fast guy, very high upside. Like Flack said, probably can stick it shortstop. If not, he might be able to be a very good center fielder as well. This is a guy who can do so many different things. The powers is in the body at 6'3", 195. I think he's going to be a really good player. They're just going to find a spot for him, let the athleticism play.
Yeah, for sake of entertainment for our viewers, MLB.com's only knock on this kid is that his main weakness, and I'm reading this verbatim, his main weakness might be the fact that he's a people pleaser and listens to too much advice on the showcase circuit. His worst problem is that
he's too coachable.
He's a nice guy and he's too coachable.
This kid's too coachable. I need to push back on me a little bit.
It tells you the level of talent that is there with Jacob Lombard, and it also tells you that if he's consistently getting the right talk track, the right feedback as he moves up levels, he's probably going to be one of the better players to come out of this draft, and is why he could easily be a top 5 pick.
I'll say this, and this to me is such a note of like high level hand-eye coordination. When you go back and watch like his videos from the circuit from like the last 2 or 3 years, this kid's got like 7 different stances and leg kicks and swings, and it's just like, it doesn't really matter what he does. He just is comfortable in the box. Everything he does just looks like he's meant to be doing doing it on the baseball field. And I can't tell you how many guys I watch at the big league level where I'm just like, man, that looked uncomfortable.
Well, listen, when they're facing Jacob Mizorowski, it's always uncomfortable, Flax. Let's give him a break.
Yeah, unless your name's Chase Mydroth in game 1 of the season.
Bang.
Looking back, not to switch us up, looking back, one of the crazier things. First at bat of the season, take Jacob Mizorowski deep. Pretty crazy. That was the omen
for the rest of your life.
That was the omen for the White Sox season.
I love it. All right, let's move on to the number 4 rated bust prospect here. And Jackson, you're going to take on talking about Jackson Flora here. The best arm by our standards in this entire draft is, of course, as no surprise to any of you, another arm from UCSB coming to take the scene on by storm. Jackson, tell everybody about Jackson.
This is a guy coming into the year. There was no clear number 1 pitcher in the class. It's kind of between him, Cameron Fluke, and Liam Peterson. And we were just waiting to see who's going to take that jump. Jackson Flora took the jump. Had like a 3.5 ERA his sophomore year. We saw the swing and miss stuff. This year, he had a 1.06 ERA, 2.13 FIP, struck out 33% of batters, walked just 8%, and had a 0.8% home run rate. He was the best pitcher in the country this year, and it was not even remotely close. He has one of the best fastballs in the class, kind of like just true right, a little bit of cut on it. It's been up to 100, kind of since 96, 97. Probably his best pitch, in my opinion, is kind of like a little splittery changeup type pitch that has really good depth and falls off the table. Not as much horizontal, just kind of depth, falls off the table. And then he kind of has two different slider shapes. One a little bit more cuttery, kind of a true slider somewhere in there, and then has one that's more of a sweepery type pitch. The ability to show 4 pitches while also throwing 96 to 99 is incredible. Typically, with college guys that we see like this who throw really hard, they might just have 1 to 2 pitches because they can rely on that fastball so much. Flores has been able to rely on multiple different pitches while continuing to get whiffs with every single one of them. I think he's one of the more polished pitchers in the class because he knows how to pitch. The pitch ability is really high. He's came up in the system at UCSB that produces pitchers at such a high rate, but he also has the incredible stuff. And we saw it all come together this year where he limited walks, got a lot of strikeouts, kept the ball in the park, and he showed off 4 pitches to a degree that we just don't really see that much.
Yeah, what he does on the mound is really simplify. Right, the stuff is there, so finding consistency by simplifying the movements for someone his size, someone with his stuff, is really important to being consistent. And I think we saw the consistency take an uptick from last year to this year. That was the most important piece for me. Could week in and week out he show up and have the stuff a third time through the order? Be efficient the first 2 times through the order and get to the 7th inning. Get deeper into games for a team like UCSB that was potentially going to take 2 to 3 times around their own order to put runs up on the board for him. And I watch probably too much Big West baseball, but this was a guy that I was really excited about. Yeah, well, that's true. This was a guy I was excited about last year because Tyler Bremner obviously was going through his own stuff with his mom and wasn't kind of shining through as much, and it led for Jackson Flora actually having the platform to show out and be as good as he could be. So that's where I say taking that next step forward, adding the consistency and having the stuff to go with it. That slider, that like gyro-y slider that he has, he does such a good job of getting that pitch to the glove side. And I think it's important, right? Because if you're going to throw 95 to 100, you want to be able to throw that fastball to the glove side as well. If you can throw both to the glove side, you're going to get so many swings and misses on back foot sliders to lefties and sliders away off the plate to righties. And that's what he lived on this year, was leveraging that pitch that kind of went on the plate to off the plate in both scenarios because he's in control of his body, because he's so consistent with his movements, and he had that consistency of the effort throwing his stuff as good as it could be.
Yeah, 102 innings pitched for the Gauchos this year, 133 strikeouts, and 32 walks over that time period. What impressed me the most about Flora year over year is his ability to learn to simply trust his stuff in the zone, right? The guy has always shown the ability to be a strike thrower, but when you then have confidence and trust that your stuff will be as stinky as it actually is when you're in the zone, you really can take a next step. I think that's what Flora has done. I am so excited to see, for whoever ends up taking him, most likely, in my opinion, in the top 5, what he looks like when he bursts onto the scene as a pro in 2027, hopefully, because we all know that this is the type of guy who, like we've seen from a Cade Anderson, who is probably the best option from a college arm, like we've seen from an Anthony Ianson, could just walk out after a full healthy offseason and start dominating at the high A level, at the double A level, and give himself an opportunity to quickly be a big league arm. Let's get to the best debate in the entire draft right now, and that is against the top 3 that seem to be the consensus top 3 across the board for just about anyone who is evaluating. That starts at number 3 for us. Coming in there is Von Lackey, a catcher out of Georgia Tech. Lackey is shown to be one of the most advanced hitters across the board in this class. He's shown to be one of the most versatile overall athletes across the board in this class. We're talking about a guy who at the end of the day may not stick behind the plate, but you're talking about 25-plus home runs, gap-to-gap power, an extremely high-level bat-to-ball. Love to hear what you guys think about Lackey because I think this kid rakes.
I think it's not only that he rakes, I think it's that he's so insanely athletic. And the way that his teammates talk about his progression since starting college and finishing the end of this season and how good he has played and his ability to just kind of show up ready to go, show up with a great attitude, I think says a lot about the kind of player that he is and can be going forward. But the balls he hit were like to the moon. I think he hit something like 950 feet of home runs in a single regional game this year. I mean, just blasting balls at a ballpark that really doesn't necessarily need it in Atlanta. But very solid backstop as well. Very solid defensively. I thought very much showed the athleticism there. I think very similarly to like a Daniel Jackson, like the bat is a bat that you're going to get in the lineup. It's not necessarily a glove that you're going to force behind the plate. But again, I don't think that's a problem. I think the premium that he brings to the table is high. His stock in the media sphere of being a potential number 1 overall pick, in my mind, is probably a little overblown, only because there's nothing he did in the regional and super regional that MLB teams hadn't already seen. Like this, it wasn't new. Every MLB scout knew that was the player he was. He was a top 5 guy coming into the end of the year and into the playoffs. He just stayed there because of how good he showed out on a national stage. And I think that's the one piece people miss. It's like, no, guys, people have been watching him. People know how good he is. Don't worry. He's been that high. But he's also just not perennially been there, so he probably won't be the number 1 overall pick. And that's okay. That's all I got.
Yeah, for me, it's just been fascinating to see the progression. Pretty much every hitter we've talked about today got on campus, was immediately playing as a freshman. Tyler Bell, Derek Carriel, Drew Burst, they walked on their campus and made huge impacts as a freshman. Vaughn Lackey's freshman year played in 35 games, hit .214 at a .381 slug, but we saw he had decent upside with decision making, had a 12% walk rate, had an 18% whiff rate, like saw the type of hitter he could be. In 2025, he learned how to hit at the college level. Hit .347, 14 doubles, 6 home runs. The K rate was low. The walk rate was low. Hadn't really turned it into power quite yet. Then this season, 2026, he put it all together. The approach stayed there from his first 3 years. The bat-to-ball skills stayed there from the second year. But he learned how to hit the ball over the park this year. Hit .397, 16 doubles, 20 home runs, 13% walk rate to 13% K rate to 18% walk rate, 17% whiff, 17% chase. He was such a complete hitter this year, and that we saw him be able to pull the ball in the air. We saw him be able to do everything right. And then behind the plate, I think he's one of the most underrated defensive catchers in the class. I think there's a good chance he sticks there at the next level. I think he's better defensively than Daniel Jackson. I think there's a high likelihood he sticks there long term. If he does not, I think he has shown athleticism to where he could be a very, very good corner outfielder or corner infielder if he does end up getting moved there because of how promising his bat is.
But the arm is there. Like
Yeah,
the reason why
okay.
he'd be a disgusting right fielder is like
Yes,
it's a
100%.
cannon.
Yes.
And I would not hate to see a corner bat like his throw guys out from the wall.
Ditto.
It's like Harper coming out of high
I'm
school.
in for that. Absolutely. You know he's going to rip it. And he's
Or
not going to
JUCO,
hold
I guess.
back.
I shouldn't say high school.
Same difference because
all the
he
same.
was high school aged. Either way,
Got a GED.
guys, the top 2 were probably maybe the largest debate over the year, which is whether or not it's Grady Emerson or Rock Chalowski at the top of your board. Who goes number 1, who doesn't go number 1. Chalowski has obviously over the last year been the guy that people expected to go number 1 since we've started talking about this draft. It does not, at least of recent anymore, it's not always happening that the position player that we think should be at number 1 the following year actually ends up maintaining that for an entire season, and we see a lot of shifts. However, in this case, it looks like that'll happen as Emerson and Chalowski have been talked about throughout this entire process. Coming in at number 2 for us, Grady Emerson. Grady Emerson out of Fort Worth Christian in Texas. Emerson is one of the most advanced high school bats we've seen in an extremely long time. Flax, there was an almost opportunity where he was put into a top 3 for the Golden Spikes Award, if I remember, and we haven't seen a high school player be even in that running in an extremely long time.
Since the guy I just mentioned, Bryce Harper.
That's true. That's a great point. There you go. So point being here at the end of the day, I could go on forever about Grady Emerson, but this guy is truly a kid where you could give him 60s across the board and people might not disagree, and you could throw a couple 65s in there and people still might not disagree. The bat to ball has been extremely, extremely good across the board, and the biggest thing for me is there's been no let up for Grady Emerson throughout the entirety of this year, as he has consistently been hyped up over the last 2 or 3 seasons to be the best high school bat in this class with the ability to stick it short and a 6'3", 185 body.
Yeah, the number one overall debate between him and Rock, I think it's so funny. Everyone wants to talk about who's the better player, but I think it's just going to end up being more about who's the better fit. Right? Grady Emerson, tools-wise, brings the exact same thing to the table, just with a little bit less experience. Really good pop to all fields, really good speed, really good feel for the glove, a good arm, right? Really good bat-to-ball skills. There's not really anything missing at this level of their game. Now, not sitting here saying guaranteed all-star or whatever, but in terms of what the expectation is for a guy like that, he's bringing everything to the table at the level he has played at up to this point. I think, in my heart of hearts, he's probably a better fit at number 1 for a team like the White Sox. And I know that's not necessarily what we're discussing, but I think that he's probably a better fit for the White Sox only because you look at what some of the other guys already at the big league level are doing. Colson Montgomery, there's only 2 guys that have hit more home runs than him since he got into the big leagues. Only 2. And it's literally Schwarber and Caminero. He's got 44 bombs in his first 156 games. Playing a very fine shortstop, right? You have other guys already pushing at that level to where a guy like Grady Emerson is probably the right backfill to develop for a few years and then find in a slot as those guys push towards the end of their arbitration years. And in the same breath, I think Rock Chalowski's a better fit for the Rays at number 2. Right now they've got Taylor Walls playing high-level defense, but barely a serviceable bat at the big league level. Rock is much closer in his window to get to the big league level. Do I think that's how it's going to play out? Probably not, because Rock, since the beginning, has felt like a can't-miss 1-1. But I think as we kind of devolve into that conversation, that's where I think both of them kind of fit. At some point, you're splitting hairs. They're both such good players.
Yeah, I agree. I ended up having Emerson at 2 on my board, but I love Rock. We're not talking about Rock quite yet. Emerson, though, is about as complete as a prospect as we can find. As Ryan said, could give him 60 grade in pretty much everything. MLB gives him 65 hit, 55 power, 55 run, 60 arm, and 60 field. So pretty much almost 60 in everything. I think the most interesting thing with him is that everything I'm reading on him is his approach is very mature at the plate. He's able draws a good amount of walks, doesn't chase a whole lot and waits for his pitch, which is just something that we don't see at this level that much. Also with the ability to likely stick at shortstop long term. I think he is as near as a can't-miss prospect at the high school shortstop level as we have seen in a while, and I think he's going to be a very good player.
Yeah. Look, I had we all did our own top 30s here, and I did have Grady Emerson rated at 1 on my board. I think that one of the things that I've learned throughout time is a lot of times if you want the absolute maximum amount of upside out of a prospect, you tend to take the high schooler because that longer period of time in pro ball is what maturates and develops that. When you really look across the MLB right now, I would say a lot of the major superstars in this game are either international prospects or originally high school players. The more time you have in a pro organization, the more time you grow up in that field, tends to be the ceiling is raised. Let's get to number 1, though, because this kid definitely does deserve to be there at the end of the day, and that would be Rock Chalowski, shortstop out of UCLA. we've said as much as we can say about the fact that he was the can't-miss number one coming out of the end of last year. He's the guy that we've all been expecting to go number one. And frankly, at the end of the day, I do think he does deserve the title if that's the one we want to give him. This is a big-bodied kid who is easily going to stick at shortstop. This is a gold glove type defender at the position with a good body. We're talking about a kid right here who could easily, once again, just like most of the guys in our top 5 to 10, could be a 25-plus home run guy. This kid could easily be a 280 to 310 hitter. Good approach to the plate. I think the question at the end of the day just ends up being how much of this all translates and how is he developed, because I don't think he's lacking any of the tools. I don't think he's lacking any of the skills. It's just whether or not we can maturate him the right way through the minor leagues, not rush him up, and continue to develop what he already does well, which is frankly just play baseball.
Yeah, listen, you could nitpick every single guy on this list. Every single guy on our top 30. You could find something you don't like. You could find something he didn't do well in. The glaring one for a guy like Rock Chalowski is his stats and honestly his swings, if you really took stock in it and paid attention to it and watched it, against Friday night starters all season long. And my only worry there is he looked slightly uncomfortable. He looked like he was trying to do a lot in those situations. I think the number we came around was hitting somewhere between 200 and 250 against those guys with only a couple of extra base hits. And he did insane damage against the next level echelon of pitcher down. I think it's more a progression than it is anything. It has nothing to do with his capability. I think the skill set is there for him to take that next step and be that guy against the highest level arms that exist. But the one thing that scares me in that is it ain't getting any easier. The next level and up, it only gets tougher. You only see the Friday guys every single night in and out. And I think that's the one curiosity of how he'll translate to the next level. But, skill set wise, there's not a lot to dislike there. He plays a really confident and calm shortstop, great range, good arm. The bat to ball skills when he does look comfortable in the box, fantastic. I think he does a little bit of what we talked about with some of those younger high school guys. He does a little bit of that stack and drift move that will need to be cleaned up at the next level. It's what gives him a lot of his power the other way. I think you probably see a ton of those turn into doubles, but a lot more pull side power as he cleans up some of those little things to get a little more comfortable against power arms. But overall, I mean, it's hard not to see this guy being a quick path and progression to the big league level.
Yeah, he's just a guy who, since he got on campus as a freshman, has been really good. His freshman year in 2024, 308, 12 doubles, 8 home runs. We were kind of like, okay, this is a good player. Then last year in 2025, he took the big jump. Hit 371, 17 doubles, 20 homers, had a triple, was just a really good player. Then in 2026, he just continued it. Only hit 330, but still had 21 home runs. Still had a very good approach to the plate. Has a 17% whiff, 21% chase, 42% overall swing rate, had a 1-to-1 K to walk ratio. He just kind of does everything right, plays a very elite shortstop. And I just think he has a much higher floor than pretty much everyone in the class, but also has the ceiling to be one of the top 5 shortstops in the sport.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, where we do have to give Chalowski a lot of credit is we finished the 2025 draft, and the first thing that was out of everybody's mouth was the fact that Chalowski was a true 1-1 that we didn't feel like we had in 2025, and he was going to be that 1-1. And unlike in previous years where we've said that about college hitters at times, Chalowski has been able to at least hold enough water to still be sitting in that top spot for guys like us and many others at the end of the day. Very excited for this weekend. Once again, make sure to come hang out with us. At the end of the day, I believe Flax and Jackson might be doing a live stream. I am out this weekend, but we are extremely excited for the 2026 MLB draft, and we're hoping you are too. Let's keep on moving right along here into your favorite segment, Flax's favorite segment, and my favorite segment. And that would be Jackson's Bullpen. Jackson, right off the draft stuff, teach us something new.
All right, what I got today is scrolling through Baseball Savant, as I do pretty much every day, trying to think of something I wanted to talk about. And today, I clicked on one of the new tabs on Baseball Savant, and that is the best average swing and miss distance by pitch. Basically, what this stat is, I think it's been about a month or two since Baseball Savant added it, maybe longer than that, but it's a relatively new stat. It basically is tracking swing data. It is tracking how much pitchers are creating whiff on their pitch. So if it's like 10 inches from the bat, 2 inches from the bat, on average on a swing, how often or how much on average are they getting in whiff on their pitch? So I went through each pitch type and just picked out the top one in terms of distance from the bat every time you get a whiff on it, and just wanted to run through them real quick. First off, for fastball, Tyler Glasnow averages 1.8 inches. Sinker, Dodgers reliever Jonathan Hernandez has a really good sinker, 6.5 inches. Cutter from Flax's Orioles, Trevor Rogers averages 6 inches on his cutter, one of the best cutters in baseball. Changeup was a surprise to me. Los Angeles Angels, Mitch Ferris averages 7 inches of distance from the bat on each changeup he throws. Splitter, no surprise, Fernando Cruz. This has been one of the best pitches in baseball for years now. Amazing pitch. Curveball, Tim Herron, Cleveland left-handed reliever, averages 10.1 inches. Slider, surprise to absolutely nobody. This is the best pitch in baseball in this stat. That is Mason Miller, who averages almost a foot away from the bat every time he gets a whip. 10.8 inches. Turns out he's really good at baseball. And
That's evil, dude. That's evil.
Well, just think about it, right? A right-handed hitter facing a glove side fastball at 99 to 101, and then you just spin a super tight slider in the same tunnel that ends up in the other box, but you're swinging because it could be the fastball with 2 strikes, and it's a foot away from the barrel. It's crazy.
To finish it out, sweeper, Chicago White Sox reliever Sir Anthony Dominguez, also been one of the better relief pitches in baseball the past couple of years. And then last, I included the good old-fashioned slurve. Cincinnati right-handed pitcher Tony Santinla? Yeah, got it. 7.5 inches.
We both, I
really good pitch for him as well. I even practiced that name before this and just couldn't get it.
Tony Santin.
Is it Santillan?
Yes.
Right.
You guys nailed it. Yeah, I love that you came in there real confident, Ryan. I appreciate that.
What, Jackson? What was the? Now that I've interrupted you twice. What was the actual stat on his sweeper?
His slurve, 7.5 inches. Yeah.
I'm actually shocked that it wasn't Kyle Harrison. Well, he had to have been up there because he's a guy who throws the slurve a lot. Maybe it's because he throws it a lot comparatively to other guys that it has a smaller average miss.
Try to pull that up really quickly.
While you're trying to pull that up, my question is do we have this the opposite way?
Yes,
do we
do
know
have
what
it for
hitter?
hitters.
Yeah, we do.
We do, and I put a
do
whole.
We have
2021
Javier Baez numbers?
I don't think it goes back that far, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I'm just being a jerk.
Well, it actually made me realize there's a lot more guys who do exactly what Javi did, but nobody gives anybody else credit because there wasn't just the one grossly absurd swing and miss.
Yeah, I know. I'm being mean. Javi had a big old year last year.
For reference, Kyle Harrison was in 4th place at 5.2 inches. I think the saddest thing about this whole thing is there was only 7 qualified slurves for this list. We need to bring the slurve back.
It's just the sweeper.
It's
just the sweeper.
Flack, be quiet. Bring the slurve back. I need more slurves in my life, okay? Kyle Harrison, Michael Soroka, Chad Patrick, one of my favorite pitchers of baseball. Throws a slurve, I'm all in. Love the slurve.
Our need to categorize shown in a small sample size. Right there. Right there.
Matt Shaw does have a pretty big miss on a slider low and away against Davis Martin. It exists. Some guys.
What was the miss? How many inches?
I already closed it.
Was it over a foot?
No.
Okay, all right.
Nothing like that.
I was curious. Jackson, good pull here. That's not one that I had heard of yet. So, Welcome to baseball, ladies and gentlemen. New stats populate just about every other month, and you've learned about a new one here today. That's what we're here to do on Baseball Unstitched. Guys, let's move into topic number 2 of the day after Jackson's bullpen here. And we're going to speed run this a little bit because we love talking about the draft, and this is what always happens at the end of the day. The AL and NL All-Star rosters have been announced. I'm going to run through the hitters. We're going to talk about snubs. I'm going to run through the pitchers. We're going to talk about snubs, and then we'll do it again. We are going to attempt to do this in a lightning round fashion. The AL starters, from a position player perspective, as voted by the fans, Yordan Alvarez at DH, Shea Langoliers catching, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first base. He will, as already been announced, be replaced by Nick Kurtz in the starting lineup due to an injury to Vlad's back. Second base, Ernie Clement of the Toronto Blue Jays. Third base, Junior Caminero, third baseman for the Tampa Bay Rays. Shortstop, Bobby Witt of the Royals. Outfielders are Mike Trout of the Angels, Byron Buxton of the Twins, Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. The reserves are as follows. Dylan Dingler, catcher for Detroit. Adley Rutschman, catcher for Baltimore. Infield, Travis Bazzana of the Cleveland Guardians. Nick Kurtz, once again, we've told you he got elevated of the Athletics. Kevin McGonigal of the Detroit Tigers. Ben Rice of the New York Yankees. Miguel Vargas of the Chicago White Sox. Your outfielders and DH, Randy Arozarena of Seattle. Cody Bellinger of the New York Yankees. Riley Green of the Detroit Tigers. And the DH, Yandy Diaz of the Tampa Bay Rays. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Guys, first off, thoughts on the roster at the end of the day. I think everybody does deserve to be here. I know there's one or two that we've pointed out that maybe shouldn't be starters, but the roster does seem to be full of guys who at least deserve to be on an all-star roster.
Yeah, I think the Wilson Contreras piece was a little bit of a miss. He's having such a good season for all the other mishigash that he's getting himself in that I can't stand. He's still playing a really, really high level of baseball, but across the board, I mean, I think that obviously the back injury for Vlad and him stepping down was just as much him realizing he didn't deserve to be in that role as much as it was, to give himself a little bit of extra time. I would have liked to see Dylan Dingler and Shea Langoliers flip-flopped. Dylan Dingler has been the best hitting catcher in baseball this year, and I think it's a little bit crazy he's not getting the starting job there. Across the board, though, I think if anybody brings up all-star appearances to me when in a conversation about Hall of Fame, I will never think of them in any way, shape, or form as being relevant information. It's just not.
Completely agree. I think the couple things I want to bring up, I really wanted to see one of the rookie second basemen, Bazzana or K-Mac, start over Ernie Clement. Ernie Clement's been awesome. I wanted to see one of them. I thought it would have been really cool. And then also, I think Miguel Vargas has been criminally underrated all year. I'm really happy that he got the All-Star nod for the White Sox. He's been one of the most complete hitters. If in your free time, just go look at his Baseball Savant page. It's just a really fun time for everybody involved. Just go check it out. Miguel Vargas is having a really good year, and I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, he's been really fun to watch.
I think for the most part, we've done all right. You know how I feel about fan voting for All-Stars. It's not my favorite thing at the end of the day, so we'll leave that conversation for another day. Snubs, Flax, you already brought up one of them. Wilson Contreras seems to be the most glaring potential snub here. 284, a 152 WRC plus, which ranks 5th in the AL, 20 home runs, 56 RBIs. Another 3 names for you. Jonathan Aranda, very well known as a strong side platoon who has gotten a little bit more from an opportunity against left-handed pitching this year. 287, a 136 WRC plus, 13 home runs. Maybe deserved to get a nod. Josh Jung, third baseman for the Texas Rangers. He is tied for the lead in doubles for the American League with Ernie Clement at 22. He's at 297, a 130 WRC plus. As already mentioned, the third base lineup is just friggin' stacked for the AL. I think this is less of a snub and more of just an unfortunate circumstance. If somebody does get hurt, I think Jung makes it. And the final one, a guy we mentioned a little bit earlier while talking about the top 2 picks potentially in this draft, Colson Montgomery. I get it. He's hitting like 224, but he ranks 5th in the AL in home runs with 23. He's got a 2.6 WAR, which is tied for 10th in the AL, and has played a very high level of shortstop. The guy's got to get talked about, so we're going to make sure he was. Any notes from you guys on the snubs?
No, I think my biggest note on snubs in general is that, like, other than a couple of very specific guys who are playing that much better than those that got chosen, it generally just comes down to, like, there's not enough spots for as many good players as exist in the league. Colson Montgomery's having a great season from a power perspective. There's also just things that he's not bat to ball nearly as good as some of these other infielders have been. It's really as simple as that. And, if it was going to be between him and Miguel Vargas to take a spot for the White Sox, it should be Vargas between the two of them.
Absolutely. Moving to the starting pitcher, or the pitching for the AL team this year. Starting pitchers are as follows: Dylan Cease of the Toronto Blue Jays, Parker Messick of the Cleveland Guardians, Drew Rasmussen of the Tampa Bay Rays, Joe Ryan of the Minnesota Twins, Cam Schlittler of the New York Yankees, Ranger Suarez of the Boston Red Sox, and Michael Wacha of the Kansas City Royals. The relief arms: Brian Baker of the Tampa Bay Rays, Aroldis Chapman of the Boston Red Sox, Jacob Latz of the Texas Rangers, Cade Smith of the Cleveland Guardians, and Louis Varland of the Toronto Blue Jays. Really strong lineup here. I like what they've done at the end of the day. Once again, to your point here, Flax, a lot of great arms on the AL side. I think they've picked a very deserving list of arms.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where I think there's plenty of guys out there. The one that stands out to me here that I love getting the nod is Michael Wacha. For a guy that's been around for a while, has continued to just be so consistent, putting together a pretty solid season for a team that just hasn't been playing up to the level that everyone would want. It's nice to see him kind of get that nod and say, hey man, you're on the team, you're an all-star, pretty well deserving for me. Across the board, these are just not any surprising names, right? Like Louis Varland, dominant back-end arm. Jacob Latz had 11 saves last month alone. Aroldis Chapman. Brian Baker's coming out of his shell and being an unbelievable closer this year for the Rays. Like, everyone here just kind of makes a lot of sense to me.
I would say for me, the one that I didn't love was Chapman, just because of the volume. He has 26.2 innings pitched right now, which for me is a little bit light at this point. I think the couple off the top of my head, Brent Hendrick from the Yankees has been unbelievable. 43 innings pitched, has a 1.45 ERA this year. Grant Taylor from the White Sox could be another one. David Bednar, another Yankee. Colin Holderman would be another Cleveland arm that could be a fun add. I think all of those guys probably could have been better options than Chapman just because of the volume of it. I think sometimes with the all-star and relievers, they focus mainly on the closers, the guys who rack up the saves a little bit more. Like Hendrick doesn't have any saves. Taylor only has 3. Colin Holderman doesn't have any. I think sometimes those guys need to be put into the all-star game a little bit more. But overall, I do love the roster. Like I said, I think Chapman, like his numbers are awesome. He just hasn't pitched a whole lot.
So, Chapman was a choice of the players. He was a player-elected pick among pitchers. So the way the pitchers work is that players will elect some guys and the MLB will elect some guys just based on numbers alone. Chapman was put there by the players, which doesn't surprise me because if you're a player in the game in the box and you see the dude throw and then you look at numbers raw, you're like, yeah, why would that not be an all-star? But I agree with you from a load perspective. It's like how Alejandro Kirk was in the running to be an all-star and he had played like 7 games when the voting started. Like, there's some level at which we need to say, like, is this what we really expected out of this guy by this point? If not, maybe we don't give him that nod.
Yeah, our men's league team has played 12 games and Flax has thrown 35.1 innings. So at the bare minimum, it's an understandable point. And see, he's stretching just thinking about it. The only 2 snubs potentially that I have here for you guys for sake of doing it, Logan Gilbert's been probably the most run out there name. 3.19 ERA, a 124 ERA plus, a minuscule and second in the AL .95 whip, 114 strikeouts and 107 in a third innings, which the 107 in third innings ranks second most thrown in the AL. I get that one for sure. Surprise, Logan Gilbert's not there. My favorite snub, though, on this side does actually tend to be Sonny Gray here. He's 10-1. Let's throw out the 10-1 here. 2.61 ERA. What's more impressive is the fact that a 39-48 Boston team has won 12 out of 16 of Sonny Gray's starts. They have literally 31% of their games that they've won. Sonny Gray has been on the hill. I think his body of work really deserved an opportunity and an all-star nod in this scenario.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you to an extent. I think obviously the underlying numbers there are never sexy for a guy like Sonny Gray, but he goes out there and throws a solid amount of innings. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's averaging in 16 starts, 5.5 innings. You know, he's going to put himself in line for a win more times than not. He's not going to pitch himself into a loss the first 2 innings of the game, which is always helpful. You know, at some rate, it's just a matter of, again, spots being available and who the league elects to put in instead of guys that maybe have some better numbers. And that's really where I think guys like Logan Gilbert and Sonny Gray end up falling. Certain guys taking certain spots that the MLB elected rather than players, and those guys probably were last men out.
Fair game. Jackson, anything before we move to the NL?
No, let it rip. Let's go.
I can tell you're just ready for your tangent, so we'll get to your tangent here shortly. Guys, moving over to the NL side of things, the NL starters from a position player perspective, DHing Shohei Ohtani, catching Drake Baldwin of the Atlanta Braves, first baseman Freddie Freeman of the LA Dodgers, second baseman Ozzie Albies of the Atlanta Braves, third baseman Max Muncy of the LA Dodgers, shortstop CJ Abrams of the Washington Nationals, the outfielders Brandon Marsh of the Philadelphia Phillies, Juan Soto of the New York Mets, and Andy Pages of the Los Angeles Dodgers. The reserves on this team and roster from a position player perspective: catchers Willem Contreras of the Milwaukee Brewers and Hunter Goodman of the Colorado Rockies. Infielders Luis Ariz of the San Francisco Giants, Bryce Harper of the Philadelphia Phillies, Otto Lopez of the Miami Marlins, Matt Olson of the Atlanta Braves, Sal Stewart of the Cincinnati Reds. The outfielders Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Pete Crow Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs, Jordan Walker of the St. Louis Cardinals, and James Wood of the Washington Nationals. And finally, Kyle Schwarber is the reserve DH of the Philadelphia Phillies. Flax, thoughts on the men who made the roster?
I'm actually going to give this one to Jackson first because I know his thoughts on who made the roster are going to quickly run into guys who did not make the roster, and I want him to take this one on before
I was
me.
trying to really make him explode a little bit more.
Him and I are in the same boat on this one, and he, as a Cardinals fan, gets rights to speak on it first.
Fair game.
All right, JJ Wetherell should be an all-star. I don't have, I'm not saying he should be a starter. I think Ozzie Albies, questionable, first off. Questionable if he should be starting over him. Anyways, Luis Ariz, I'll take. Luis Ariz has been awesome this year. Defense has been much improved. The fact that Sal Stewart is an all-star ahead of J.J. Weatherholt, in my opinion, is extremely egregious. I was high on Sal Stewart coming to the year. He's had an awesome year. He sent 254, 339, 446 as an 805 OPS. J.J. Weatherholt, as a rookie, 269, 364, 416, 780 OPS, 13 homers, 9 stolen bases. J.J. Weatherholt's been one of the best defensive infielders in baseball, not even close. 18 outs above average. And I know Flax doesn't love that for infielders. He also has 14 defensive runs saved, which is a lot better than Sal Stewart's -2 defensive runs saved and 0 outs above average. They have been comparable close hitters, and J.J. Weatherholt clears the water defensively. I also think Weatherholt should be in over Ozzie, even though that's close, and I'm not going to argue that as much. I think J.J. Weatherholt should clearly be the all-star. As the NL Rookie of the Year frontrunner right now, I think he should easily be in there. Him and Jordan Walker should be going after it together like the 7th inning, and they're going to win this thing for the NL. I mean, if you watched him play, opened up the series against the Cubs with a home run, one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Was watching that live with my dad. J.J. Weatherholt should be an all-star, please. I don't get it. Someone explain it to me.
I think the only guy on the NL that I could potentially see having gotten snubbed because of Bryce Harper being the quote-unquote legend pick which, by the way, I think minimizes how good Bryce Harper's actually been this year.
That's all I was going to say.
By like a mile. Like, what are we doing here? Just keep it close to the vest and say, yeah, Bryce Harper has actually posted, a 150 WRC plus this year, posted a 1.8 F-WAR as a first baseman, and his 20 home runs. He's Bryce Harper, and he's been playing good enough at an all-star level. I think TJ Rumfield's probably the only guy I could say that maybe got snubbed because of that legend pick, that maybe the players or even the league could have put him in instead. I think it's a little crazy that the guy who's leading the NL in hitting is a reserve infielder. If I'm going to be honest with you, Otto Lopez, it's hard for me because CJ Abrams has been so incredibly good at the position, but let's call a spade. Otto Lopez should be the starter in the NL. As good as he has been playing about as high quality all-star level baseball as it gets across the board. Bryce Terang not being there is crazy to me. And he's put up 3.1 WAR, 20 doubles, 12 home runs. He is the best second baseman in the league. There's no real question there. He has been for the last 2 years. Why he's not there is insane. I think that's really all I've got as far as guys who aren't there but should be there. I don't think there's any other major snubs on my brain on the NL side. Yeah, there are on the pitching side, but
for levels of entertainment from a standpoint of the second base race, as I'm going to dub it at this point.
Yeah, I like NL,
that. There's an argument to be stated that the two best second basemen in the NL are not playing in the All-Star game, and that's always tough at the end of the day. Now, this is how this works. Only other two guys I've got as potential snubs. Really depends on how you look at these things. Elly De La Cruz, shortened season, only 69 games so far, but he's hitting 272, 343, 477. 14 doubles, 2 triples, 13 home runs, 13 stolen bases. I think the bigger talk track here with Elly is it really sucks that he's only gotten to play 69 games because he's having an excellent year. If he's got a full year's worth of baseball like everybody else does, or I should say a full season lengthened out without the injuries, he's probably on this roster somewhere. And then Michael Harris II does deserve a little bit of from a flower perspective here. 302, 335, 505, a 128 WRC plus 2.3 WAR while playing excellent in the outfield for the Braves. The NL pitchers, as we move on to the final portion of this today. Starting pitchers, Chase Burns of the Cincinnati Reds, Max Meyer of the Miami Marlins, Jacob Mizorowski of the Milwaukee Brewers, Eduardo Rodriguez of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Chris Sale of the Atlanta Braves, Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies, Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Logan Webb of the San Francisco Giants, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto of the LA Dodgers. The relievers on this roster, Johan Duran of the Philadelphia Phillies, Raisel Iglesias of the Atlanta Braves, and Mason Miller of the San Diego Padres. The NL Cy Young race has been maybe the most gross and disgusting thing we've ever seen in our lives this year. There's 7 to 8 guys you could put into that conversation, and this All-Star team does a pretty solid job of embodying almost all of those guys.
The one I'm really excited about here is Max Meyer. I'm really glad that he got the nod. Very deserving. Has been extremely good for a team that has kind of had a little bit of a roller coaster of a first half, but on the upswing at the moment. Most of the other guys here are pretty expected, I would say. Logan Webb just had an unbelievable last month. Honestly, the one guy here who I could very well see end up backing out or going and not actually throwing is Paul Skeens. Actually, I think him and Mizorowski are slated to throw right before the All-Star game. Christopher Sanchez probably pitched himself out of the Cy Young race today, unfortunately, against the Royals. But if he doesn't get the starting nod at his home ballpark for the NL, I'm going to be livid.
I would agree.
It would be absurd.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to stick with the reliever discussion again. Mason Miller, no thoughts, nothing to say. He's an all-star. He's the best relief pitcher in baseball. Johan Duran and Raisel Iglesias, same discussion. Both have 29 2/3 innings pitched. They've both been good this year. However, I don't think Rocio Iglesias has been the best reliever on his own team this year. If you go take a look at Dylan Lee's numbers, 41 games, 39.1 innings pitched, has a 1.60 ERA, 1.33 FIP. Just because he's not a closer, Rocio Iglesias got in over him. However, I do think Dylan Lee has deserved a spot.
Could not agree more. We've got to get over whether or not the guy has saves in his column when it comes to relief pitchers going to the All-Star game. It's really just got to stop. I love that we shut down games, but at the same time, we've looked at guys and we've seen guys like Andrew Miller who purposely are brought into the game against the 3 best hitters. Those types of guys do deserve the opportunity. Dylan Lee is that guy for the Braves.
Can I say something real quick?
If you want to, it is your podcast.
It's our podcast. Don't do that to yourself. The last time, and I am almost sure that he's going to blow a save soon because I'm saying this, but I'm putting it out there into the world. The last time Raisel Iglesias blew a save, July 26th, 2025. So,
do they play the Nats anytime soon?
Yeah, right.
Perfect.
Well, I mean, we're talking about a guy who, in a closer role, has thrown 56.2 innings since blowing a save and has been damn near perfect. Like, I get what you're saying. I get what we're saying. But the role that he takes on and the consistent job that he has done in the league this year, pitching to a 1.53 ERA, 17 saves, he's been phenomenal. Dylan Lee is fantastic as a reliever. But you can't tell me that Raisel Iglesias isn't an all-star.
It's less about Raisel Iglesias specifically and more about the premise against the fact that I do think the All-Star game heavily gets predicated for relievers around guys just because they are the guy finishing the game. Let me go out on that basis.
It's also schedule.
Have to be Dylan Lee right now.
It's also schedule, by the way. Like, the league will, as bad as this sounds, the reason why the league picks pitchers is because the league also asks the teams,
sure,
are you good with this? And the team might say, hey, we're in the middle of a tough stretch and this guy's going to get used. You can have him as an all-star because he deserves it, but he's also not going to pitch in the all-star game.
Yeah, but don't you think the league should just announce the all-star team and then figure the rest of it out because that's what you deserve in your profession?
Yeah,
whether
for
you're
sure.
a baseball player or not?
Absolutely. I also think we should just let more relievers go to the all-star game.
The last caveat I should have there is the fact that Iglesias pitches every 3 to 4 days on the most point, which again, he has been awesome. I'm not going anything against him. Dylan Lee's pitching every 2 to 3 days. 41 appearances to Rocio Iglesias. Don't have the number off the top of my head, but has pitched significantly less this year. 29.1 innings pitched to Dylan Lee's 39. But again, I think they're both very good options. Rocio Iglesias is a really good reliever, but I do think Dylan Lee deserves a little bit of flowers.
Only thing defensible for Iglesias here, because the goal on my side too, no different than yours, Jackson, is not to mess with him. He did have some injuries this year, so when it comes to his lower inning count compared to maybe some other closers, a lot of it has to do with availability. I believe he had a 2.5-3 week stretch where he wasn't available. So ironically, his 29.1 innings, when we really look at it, might be a little bit more. All right, guys, let's run through this real quick. Snubs that I have on my list: Justin Robleski of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's a starter for them. 1.01 WHIP, tied for third in the NL. A 2.8 ERA, eighth in the NL, and a 2.1 WAR as a pitcher, eighth in the NL. Braxton Ashcraft, just striking out the world right now, doing his own best Paul Skeens impersonation. 9-3 with a 3.24 ERA, 122 Ks, which ranks him fourth in the NL, and 108.1 innings, ranking third in the NL. Kyle Harrison, a guy that you've already mentioned, both of you have mentioned a couple times today, after being traded 8-1 with a 2.82 ERA, a 1.50 ERA plus, 99 Ks and 79.2 innings gross. Zach Wheeler, another guy who got a slower start simply due to injuries because he wasn't available for probably his first 3 starts of the year, is what I think the math rounds out to. 13 starts this year, 8-1 with a 2.36 ERA, a .94 WHIP, 84 Ks over 80 innings. The guy who was hurt all last year, and he has come back, even though he believe he plans to retire at the end of the season, and he still looks like the Cy Young guy we know him to be. And my favorite snub of the day, Foster Griffin of the Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
He's been the best arm on our staff as a starter. Left-handed arm, 104 whip, fourth in the NL, 103.1 innings, tied for seventh. A 2.87 ERA, puts him at ninth, and he has struck out 100 this year. Once again, similar to Sonny Gray, the Nationals have won 12 out of 18 of his starts this year, which when you're a young team, anytime you can win is going to be a big morale booster for the young guys and good experience. So that's my final snub. Anything on the snubs before we move to final thoughts?
No, the only thing I'll say on Foster Griffin, and I'm not saying this is right, but the Nats already have two guys in the All-Star game. And when you are where they are in the standings, you tend to not get a lot of favors.
I'd agree.
It's really all it is.
But
he's deserved numbers wise and the way he's thrown, very deserving. Especially the second, the May and June months of the year.
Would agree. He was unreal last month, that's for sure. Flax, Jackson, any final thoughts this week?
I'll go first. Tonight, Monday night, is going to be one of the only times in my life I will be purposely watching soccer. We'll know the outcome tomorrow, but USA plays Belgium tonight. I know Flax is tuning in as well. So go America. We'll see how this turns out tomorrow when this podcast gets released. We're really hoping we pull out the win and keep the streak going. If USA is still playing after this, tune into the next round. World Cup is one of the best sporting events. As an overall sports fan, as I am, World Cup is one of the best sporting events in the world.
Go USA. My final thought is the 2-year Tommy John deal that the Red Sox and Craig Breslow gave Patrick Sandoval is finally coming to fruition in July of year number 2. He was reinstated to the roster today, and go Craig Breslow.
I am so happy to hear that because we loved that signing. I'm actually scared to now see how this goes. With my new information over the last year, Flax, that's a great call out there.
Thank you.
My final thoughts are non-existent this week, so I'm just gonna tell you guys to share the podcast with your friends. We hope you guys enjoyed all of the draft content. We hope you guys enjoyed the last 3 weeks of having Jackson on the podcast full time. Once again, MLB Draft is this weekend. This is the future of your teams. If you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, we hope you're as excited as we are. We hope that the draft bus board for 2026 has helped get you a little bit more ready and prepared to watch the draft this weekend. Once again, guys, like, follow, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, streaming on all of your favorite social media platforms, Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Music. And of course, come visit us on socials, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Reels, really wherever you digest social media content. But we end where we always end. Have a great